Welcome to Focus on the Falls. I'm John Mercure, talking about a very important subject today. I love everything that we dive into, but this is an area we maybe don't talk enough about. It's about disability, special education resources, transitioning for older students in our district. And I am joined by a couple of great guests. Of course, the Superintendent, Corey Gala, is with us this afternoon. Corey, thank you so much for being here. And next to him is Andy Redkey and then Julie Mulligan. Thank you so much for being with us. Julie, I want to start with you. So as the transition coordinator for the district, kind of when people ask you and meet you what you do, how do you explain what it is that you do in your role and what your area is responsible for?
Thank you for having us. It tends to be a much broader conversation, but when I have to do my elevator speech, I basically say that I work with students and families throughout our district. Serving as a transition coordinator allows me to work with some of our littlest learners and the staff that supports them, as well as our middle schoolers, our high schoolers, and then our students who are closest to graduation and moving on to the adult world.
So when we talk about transition and those little ones all the way up to those that are getting ready to be done with school, when we say transition, what does that mean? Transition from what to what? What are you helping them bridge?
So there's a couple different things. Sometimes transition may be considered going from one building from our little elementaries into the next, or from middle school to high school. But the broader term really is looking at transitioning into the adult world. So from the moment our students walk into our buildings, regardless of whatever grade they come in on, we start that day to prepare them for when they leave us, regardless of when they leave us. So that transition is more of a broader set of life skills that we're preparing them for their future.
How did you decide this was an area that you felt passionate about? What's your background? How did you decide that this was your path?
So I spent a number of years working in the private sector for individuals with disabilities. And then my brother actually said, you need to be a transition teacher. So I went back to school and got my teaching certificate and worked as a transition teacher for a while, and then took the role here as a transition coordinator. I have a unique set of skills where I've worked in the private sector, so I know what that adult world looks like in terms of services available, guardianship, things like that. But I also now have the education background, so I've been that classroom teacher. I know the resources. So I've been able to marry those two worlds together to help prepare our students and really their families as well to figure out what's going to happen next. So that's been a really great experience to have both worlds, because that's kind of unique in education.
Yeah, it's a great marriage of both of those worlds. Andy, you are in the classroom a lot. How did you decide that this is the area you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, so I originally started here 8 years ago as a special education teacher. I was in our 9-12 classrooms, and I had an opportunity to go into our young adult services program, and I kind of jumped on the opportunity to take advantage of it and work with a different group of students with different disability areas, but then also kind of building towards the future and what does their adult life look like, what does their post-secondary life look like. It's something I'm passionate about. I really enjoy it. I brag and say I have the best job in the district. And it's just something that is a totally different experience, and it's not your traditional high school setting, because I am working with students that are over the age of 18, so we work on a lot of employability skills and things like that, and it's just a really awesome experience and something I enjoy a lot.
So Andy, when people think about the district, I think they don't probably have on their radar that there are kids in the district that are over 18 years old that need to transition, that need our focus and our attention. What's that like day to day when you're working with kids that are older than anybody else in the district and do have certain needs that need to be met that are different than a traditional student?
Yeah, it's totally different because we are in the high school, but I tell everybody in our room, we're just here. We aren't really a part of the high school. We don't follow the bell schedules. We don't go class to class. On a normal day, my students in my room are probably outside of this building 75% of the day. So for instance, in 20 minutes, I have a group of students that are going to go to Planet Fitness to work on healthy living lifestyles. They're going to work out with same age peers, doing anything a person from the age of 18 to 21 would do. We're just helping build their skills up to do that independently, and that's kind of one of our big goals, is to be healthy but to be employable and have those functional skills to be successful in the community when they leave us.
I'm so excited to talk about this, Corey, because we spent a lot of time talking about curriculum for little kids and all the learning skills that go with our littler population. But this is something we don't talk about enough. This transition part in the district, this sector of our population, why is this so important that we get this right?
Yeah, I was excited too, and it was actually when Julie just sent an update on some work that she was doing, and I thought, boy, we really got to feature this, because it's, what this program exemplifies, it really brings to light some key words and some sort of concepts we share, like, our mission to be there for all students. Like, they exemplify the commitment to all, because what they're doing is, we have programs like the Healthcare Academy serves a lot of students. They come through and we try our best to personalize, but their work is just, it's so personal. It's looking at, what are the strengths of each of these individual students? How can I help magnify those? How can I help them believe in themselves? How can I help them, be successful and really imagine themselves independent when they leave us? And that's so powerful, and it's great for those kids, but it's a great model for the rest of our system of how much we can accomplish when we just look at an individual kid and their gifts and what's possible for them.
It must be cool, Corey, when you hear from families who have used this part of our service as a school district. A lot of us in the district don't know this exists, but when you hear from a family who has had meaningful change because of what we're talking about here, how cool is that?
Yeah, I think it's amazing, and I hope that's how families feel. That's the sense we get from them. Is we talk about the concept of efficacy, which is really believing in students, believing that we can make a difference for students and help them find a better path. And I imagine that sometimes you have parents that might even need help believing that their child can be independent at some point. So they're coaching these kids, but they're also coaching these families, like, they're going to be okay. We're going to help them be successful, help them be independent, help them live, just really live a rich life. So it's awesome, and we certainly, it's an area where we get a lot of positives from those families. They obviously are working very close with Andy and Julie, and it's a great thing when you see them make that successful transition.
Andy, without giving me any names, give me a success story or two. Tell me something really cool that you've been part of, that you've helped nurture.
Yeah, so we actually had a student, he's in our program right now. He had a difficult 9 through 12 experience, really struggled in a traditional setting, attendance, and just a whole bunch of different barriers. So we decided as a whole team that he would kind of come into the 18 to 21-year-old program, and it was probably a 2 to 2.5 year, not struggle, not challenges, but just a work through for us to get this student in a position to where he would be successful in the community. Long story short, after 2.5 years, this student now is working 30+ hours at a very large company in Menominee Falls with full benefits, paid time off, holidays. So it's really awesome. And if you knew this student where he started, and then when I tell people where he is now, they're like, no way, I don't believe you.
That's awesome.
And it is. It's such a cool experience. He comes in, once every other week to check in with us. We talk about things, and he's doing phenomenal. So that's been a really cool story right now.
Man, I love that story. Julie, with our smaller populations that you touch, there must be stories like that too. It's obviously not going off to work, but meaningful work for our families.
Sure. I think those successes come a little bit at a time as we go. But in addition to the young adult services that Andy works with under our 18 to 21 umbrella, last year I started a consortium group with 2 other districts, and we're working, it's called College Connect. And so we're working with students who want to go to college, have an IEP, and have finished all 4 years of their academic requirements for graduation, but the teams decided they may need a little bit more of a bridge between high school and college. And so our pilot year, we had 7 students who earned 69 college credits.
Wow.
That they then are building on to work towards certificates.
That's cool.
Associate's degrees, and then potentially farther beyond. So on another end of that, we're supporting students under their IEPs while at college to kind of
That's really cool.
Move forward. So.
Are there challenges in your area?
Yeah, I think there's challenges everywhere
In every
you go,
area,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. COVID has not helped anyone.
Yeah.
I would say, though, as I'm working with Andy and working with some of our other students, finding community employer partners who are willing to work with us to help provide unpaid community-based internships or work experiences for our students has been more challenging than it has been for me in the past. So we have some employers that we work with where students can go and practice authentic work skills. Soft skills per se, like showing up on time, hygiene, communication, those kinds of things. The things that anybody can lose a job for, right? Any employer will take somebody who shows up on time and have to train them versus the opposite. So just being able to connect with employers who are willing to maybe take a chance with us, I think that's what we're running into right now is our biggest challenge.
Is that kind of the biggest challenge you see, Andy, along those same lines?
Yeah, and obviously with the current state with COVID and things like that, at one point, pre-COVID, we had probably about 6 different employers that we were going through, and we would rotate through, and we'd have a litany of different experiences that our students would be able to go through, and now obviously everybody's doing what they think's best and for their company. So some places we're not able to go back to, and that's just the reality of the situation. But I think it just speaks to the students that we have in our program to be flexible and adapt through all of these different changes, and they've handled it well. And Julie and I have worked together really closely to maximize the opportunities we have. But yeah, that's probably one of the bigger challenges we've had this past couple of years.
Corey, I know you and your teams work hard to partner with good companies and businesses in our community. How important is that partnership, that we as a district, a meaningful district, partner with businesses and other organizations in our community?
No, I think it's critical, and it's such an asset that we have based on where we're located with so many employers in this community. Those partnerships help us understand the changing world of work. Educators, Julie's unique. I mean, educators, many of us have been in schools essentially our whole life, so the more we can connect, the more we can understand that world of work and how that's changing. And the more they can learn from us, because I think what Andy and Julie have to do is to coach that same level of belief in those employers of, reimagine their work, reimagine what type of people might be successful in that work, how these students can really serve them and help their organization. It's a two-way street.
It's such an important topic, and we've kind of barely scraped the surface. Julie, is there a website, or where can people get more information if they want to find out more information about the great work you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So if you go to our district website and just in the search bar type in the word disability, you'll get a search result that'll say disability and special education resources for families, actually.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of different resources on there. I put that website together as a culmination of the last 8 years of people asking me all different questions, and now I have one place for everybody to kind of go to. So there's a ton of different transition-related areas that families and the community and students can click on and check out different resources that fall under that. So that's like the go-to where I'm sending people right now.
Yeah, and I checked it out. There's a lot of really good information on there. It's easy to navigate. It's fun to look at. It's good stuff. So the district website, type in disability in the box, and it's going to pop right down and populate that for you. Julie Mulligan, Andy Redke, of course, Corey Gallo, Superintendent. Thank you so much for being with us on Focus on the Falls.
Thank you.
Thank you.